The cell was dark, reeking of metal, chemicals, and fear. Every sound carried. A dripping pipe, the hum of machinery, the faint scrape of boots somewhere above. For Lira, it was the 7th day since the Vorthak raiders captured her. 7 days since they dragged her from her village on Nerit Prime, bound her with searing cuffs, and tossed her into this pit. The Vorthak called it conditioning. She called it torture. Every day they came, tall, scaled monsters with pitiless yellow eyes, and strapped her to the cold slab in the center of the chamber. The light panels above would flare, bathing the room in sterile white. Then the pain would start. Electric currents, needles, sonic pulses that rattled her bones and made her vision blur. Sometimes it was hours, sometimes minutes. They never spoke to her, never explained why. The only mercy was the moments afterward when they left her in the dark, her body trembling, her mind reeling. On the 7th day, Lira thought she wouldn't make it through another, and that's when the alarm started blaring. High above the Vorthak base, cutting through the dense clouds, came a single human dropship, and at its helm sat Rafe Calder, smuggler, pilot, and general menace to every alien warlord in this sector of space. He hadn't planned to start a fight today. His plan was simple. Sneak in, steal the experimental fuel cells rumored to be hidden in the Vorthak compound, and get out before anyone knew he was there. But Rafe had a talent for trouble, and when his scanners picked up faint life signs deep underground, one of them so weak it was barely there, he couldn't just ignore it. He never ignored things like that. "Calder, you idiot," he muttered to himself, already angling the ship toward the compound's roof. The Vorthak anti-air cannons roared to life. Energy bolts streaked through the night sky. Rafe grinned, slammed the throttle forward, and whispered to his ship like it was a living thing. "Hang in there, girl. We've done worse." The ship dove straight through the gunfire, skimming low enough to scorch the tower tops. Rafe leapt from the cockpit before the landing gear even touched the roof, plasma rifle slung over his shoulder. He didn't care about the fuel cells anymore. Someone was dying down there, and he wasn't about to let that happen. Lira barely registered the sound of chaos above. Shouts, weapons fire, the shriek of metal doors tearing open. Her body was so wrecked with exhaustion that all she could do was stare at the cell door as it suddenly exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a figure she didn't recognize, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing battered human combat armor painted with streaks of old battles. He wasn't a Vorthak. He wasn't like anyone she'd seen before. "Hey," the man said, glancing at the restraints holding her to the slab. "Guessing you're not here voluntarily?" His voice was light, almost teasing, but his eyes burned as he took in the bruises, the burns on her wrists, the trembling in her limbs. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. "Right. Rescue first, conversation later." He blasted the locks with his rifle. The restraint snapped open. Lira collapsed forward, only for his arms to catch her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he murmured, slinging her over his shoulder like she weighed nothing. "Name's Rafe. You're safe now." She didn't feel safe. Not yet, but for the first time in days, she felt hope. The Vorthak weren't happy about losing their prisoner. The corridors shook with the sound of pursuit. Heavy boots, guttural shouts, weapons fire scorching the walls around them. Rafe ran like a man who'd done this 100 times before, weaving through the narrow halls, returning fire with deadly precision. Lira clung to him, too weak to move on her own, but refusing to close her eyes. She didn't want to miss her chance at freedom. At one point, a massive Vorthak warrior blocked the exit, a towering wall of scales and muscle. Rafe set Lira down gently behind a crate. "Stay low," he said, drawing a second weapon from his belt. The Vorthak roared and charged. Rafe didn't flinch. He sidestepped at the last second, jammed one plasma pistol under the creature's arm, and fired. The blast blew the alien backward into the wall. Rafe grabbed Lira again. "And that's why you don't skip leg day," he muttered, sprinting toward the roof. By the time they reached the dropship, Lira's vision was swimming. The cold air hit her face as they broke out onto the roof, but the ship's engines were already running. "Hold on," Rafe said, strapping her into the co-pilot seat. The moment they were airborne, the Vorthak opened fire again. Rafe yanked the controls, sending the ship in wild arcs through the night sky. You okay? He shouted over the noise. Lira managed to whisper, Who are you? Just a guy who hates bullies, he said, grinning like this was all some kind of game. But there was nothing playful in the way his eyes flicked to her every few seconds, checking that she was still conscious. Hours later, the dropship slipped into the safety of hyperspace. The Vorthak were behind them. Lira sat wrapped in a blanket in the co-pilot seat, watching stars streak past the viewport. Her body ached, but she felt lighter, like she'd been carrying a mountain on her back, and someone had finally lifted it off. Rafe leaned against the console, sipping from a battered metal flask. You got a name? He asked. Lira, she said softly. Well, Lira, you're free now. I can drop you anywhere you want. Home, a medical station, whatever you need. She hesitated. Why did you help me? Rafe shrugged. Because someone had to, and nobody else was coming. It was such a simple answer. But after everything she'd been through, the screams, the pain, the endless darkness, it was the first thing that made sense. Over the next few days, Rafe's ship became a strange kind of sanctuary. He patched her wounds with surprising gentleness, taught her how to work the ship's galley, even let her sleep in his own bunk while he took the floor. The Vorthak wouldn't stop hunting her. They had invested too much in whatever twisted experiments they were running. But every time Lira woke from nightmares, Rafe was there, calm, steady, a shield between her and the rest of the galaxy. And slowly, she started to feel like herself again. When they finally reached a safe colony on the edge of human space, Rafe handed her a small comm device. For when you need help, he said, or if you just get bored. She looked up at him. You're leaving? Got places to be, he said with a grin. Bad guys to annoy. Fuel cells to steal. The usual. Lira held the device tightly. Thank you. For everything. Rafe started toward the ship, then paused. Lira, he said, glancing back. The Vorthak messed with the wrong person. And the next time they try something like this, he grinned, all sharp edges and reckless charm. I'll be around. The ship lifted off, disappearing into sky. And for the first time since her capture, Lira smiled. Because somewhere out there was a reckless human who had risked everything to save her, and might just do it again.